Hello, everyone. I am Tomina SAVEANU, and I'm happy to present our paper at the 38th IBIMA conference taking place this year. Along with my two colleagues, Alina BADULESCU and BADULESCU, we prepared a short paper regarding the policies or a review of policies regarding social responsibility of companies with a focus on Romanian SMEs. We come from the Faculty of Economic Sciences, University of Oradea, Romania. In this paper, we will briefly present the rationale. Why is this topic important in the research on social responsibility? We focus then on the discussion of how much is voluntary and how much is mandatory regarding social responsibility actions undertaken by firms. And then we will focus on the international European context as well as the Romanian context regarding the policies and different programs that are in place in order to promote social responsible behavior on behalf of the firms. In the concluding section, we will highlight the main highlights or ideas that were presented within this topic. So this topic is important in general. Social responsibility is a topic of interest from many points of view. It was emphasized a lot by academics, by practitioners, as well as policymakers. It was strongly promoted in general by different type of professional associations, and it's considered something that firms need to do. It has a strong normative aspect. Because of that, and because of these pressures that was exerted by professional associations, it soon got legislated or was translated into policies and laws, both at international level, European level especially, but it also was translated in national laws in different European countries. In this paper, we try to investigate this direction of action, trying to emphasize the relevant policies for the SMEs, for the small and medium enterprises. We will start with the macro level, international, and then focus on the European framework. And we will stop particularly to the Romanian legislative framework regarding the policies implemented nationally in terms of the promotion of social responsibility organizations. So why is this topic important, or why is it questionable whether we should talk about the legislative dimension of CSR? This is because of several authors emphasize that it is important what firms do extra. It is emphasized that CSR comprises of voluntary actions and policies undertaken or implemented by firms in order to increase their social and environmental impact. However, several other authors emphasize that it is important to talk about the legal level. For Carol, one of the main authors in CSR literature, emphasizes that the legal level is one of the fundamental, along with the economical, in terms of social responsibilities of the business sector. And it is also important because we cannot talk about socially responsible firms that are not legally correct or do not obey the law. And a lot of attention that was gained for the topic of social responsibility came exactly from these negative examples of firms who did not, they displayed a nice image of socially responsible firms. However, they did not completely obey the law. They made frauds, they stole money, or they used child labor, and this kind of examples that were actually quite negative, and that was one of the reasons that social responsibility as a concept gained so much attention in the last years. More to this, it is that there are a lot of diversity between the legal provisions in different countries. So things that are mandatory in Romania, for example, or many European countries may be a voluntary thing in America, like social security or pensions or different health insurance for employees and so on. In general, in Europe, it is more standardized, and there are clear provisions that firms must obey. So these do not normally come under the umbrella of CSR. However, we cannot talk about a socially responsible firm if we do not take into account the obeying the law. More, it is about the voluntary actions, and there are a lot of legislative aspects, and these are the focus in our paper, that try to help firms do more. So these are examples of good practices, handbooks, financial or non-financial incentives for firms in order to increase their social responsibility and their acknowledgement of their social and environmental impact. So these are mainly what we will look at in this paper. At the international level, it is important to state from the beginning that there are these international associations, professional associations that actually developed quite a lot of the standardization and the actions undertaken by firms in terms of their social responsibility programs. These mainly are the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, which tried to translate the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, in concrete plans of actions for companies. And they provide a lot of concrete examples and mechanisms and tools that are useful for firms who try to engage in this direction. Another important instrument and also a professional association is represented by the Global Reporting Initiative, who also has standardizations in order to help firms organize and also report their social activities. Again, another important aspect is represented by the International Standard for Social Responsibility, the ISO 26000, which tries to help firms who want to get involved, both large and small, that try to get involved in social responsibility and how they can best do this. These international platforms or structures were also imposed a lot of pressure also to the international legal institutions, such as the European Commission, which adopted a strategy in promoting social responsibility. And that was translated from this initial period of 2011-2014. It was also subsequently monitored and improved along. So there are a lot of dimensions. Most of them emphasize the human capital and how these aspects should be done, but also environmental aspects are quite well promoted in this European legislation. At the level of Romania, the strategy for promoting social responsibility was adopted in 2011 along with the European strategy, and it's mainly a translation of this strategy, and it's also following quite closely the ISO standards, so it goes along the main following dimensions: responsibility, ethical behavior, transparency, respect to stakeholders, respect to the rule of law, cooperation on coherence, performance management, predictability, respect to human rights, and there are also the other norms and international standards. These are the main chapters, and in each directions of actions were identified and how firms should get involved in different dimensions. However, after 2016, it was not continued. We could not find any report on how it was implemented, nor any other document that would follow up these activities. However, there are a lot of other legal provisions that help the firms to engage in social responsibility in different ways. The fiscal codes has two distinct dimensions. One is direct into % of the income tax. These are for individuals, but also the deduction of 20% of the tax owned by companies to amounts offered as sponsorship or donations. Another important aspect is regarding employment policies. There are deductions for firms who employ people with coming from different disadvantaged groups, but also facilities for production or the use of green energy. These are, we consider, quite important in helping firms to be more socially and environmentally engaged. Also, there is the law on volunteering, which also can be easily translated into the business sector, both as a way in which volunteering in firms can be acknowledged and seen as relevant, but also helps firms to create their own voluntary programs for their employees. There is another mandatory provision that is only relevant for large companies. That is also a translation of a European law or a directive that imposes a non-financial performance reporting for all large companies. This was translated in 2 specific orders in Romania. So in conclusion, we can say that there is an increasing pressure for companies to pay attention to their social responsibilities, and there are some mechanisms that try to help firms to model their behavior or to choose different actions that are more relevant for them. However, it is this dilemma comes up if increasing legislative and policy attentions towards CSR would leave the voluntary part. So to what extent it's their way of choosing to do social responsibility or not. So a lot of standardization may hinder some other initiative that would come from bottom up. It is also the question if designing a responsible, socially responsible business model would actually be beneficial, especially when we think about small and medium enterprises in developing countries. Romania, from the point of view of these policies, however, is quite far. Unfortunately, we can consider that it's still at the debate phase based on the Aguilera and her colleagues' analysis of these policies. This was our main idea. We are thankful for the financial support that was offered for this research through a project implemented at the University of Oradea. Here is the list of references that was the basis for our study. And I'm very happy to ask you for your questions and suggestions that I will expect either on my email or you can contact us via our ResearchGate profiles. Thank you very much for your attention. Looking forward for your questions.